Hello and welcome to another Full Court Press podcast. A college basketball
College basketball
experience.
experience. What's up,
Yeah.
LT? How you doing,
Yeah.
buddy?
What's up? What's up, baby? What's up? What's up? What's up? Dude, I watched my wife and kids were away this past weekend, and I watched college basketball. I actually went to Pitt and
Mhm.
watched that game against Louisville. I think Coach Payne, Kenny Payne's gonna have one more year.
Okay.
Um, And I think just due to financial constraints the universities kind of put themselves in, they got to give him one more year. Um, they got to give him one more year.
You think so?
Yeah, yeah. Pitt's good, man. But I'll tell you one thing: Pitt is good. Pitt is good. Pitt's really good. They're on the bubble, I think.
Yeah, they're on the bubble. Jeff Capel's a great coach.
Yep.
Um,
So
yeah,
they,
I mean, Pitt's like one of those teams, right, in the ACC where you're kind of like, are they a product of the conference, right? Like how well do you think a Pitt would do in like the Mountain West this year, right? Like, you would think that like a fifth or sixth best team in the ACC should be one or two in a Mountain West, right? So and there's a couple scenarios like that, like throughout the country, where I'm like, it's really hard to tell how Team of Good is because the conference might be having a down year as a total, right?
mm-hmm,
So, but no, I'm glad you were at that game, full court press in the house there.
mm-hmm.
You took some great pictures. You were in the press conference after the game. You got to hear from Kenny Payne and Coach Capel. Yeah, I mean,
Blake Hinson. That's all you got to remember is Blake Hinson.
okay, yeah. I mean,
He scored.
you were like text. I'm sure you were like putting your camera down, like texting me, and you were like, "Dude, this Henson kid, like he's tied with Louisville."
Yeah, it was 27. It was 27. He had
Just
27
himself.
points at halftime, and that's
Yeah.
what Louisville had. I mean, they're winning. He shot what he got 41, 42. I think he had the all-time most threes in a
Mhm.
game. I mean, Pitt, and I'm going to put that out today or tomorrow. I did a little video, and I think like 8 of the clips are three-pointers.
Jesus, that's insane.
I mean, it's nuts, but it's funny to think. Oh, and Pitt, I got to go. I'm going back to Pittsburgh for the NCAA first and second round. Full court
Mhm.
press will be there. Um, and I will tell you, Pittsburgh is not flat. I swear to God, the basketball court's not even flat.
Really?
Yeah, it's everything's a fucking hill. Excuse my French. But
Yeah.
you know what? Big East, and we've got our next guest is part of the Big East. I mean, we were just talking off air. UConn is legit,
Yeah.
like legit.
They're my favorite to win the whole thing, man. It's man, they're good. They just picked apart Marquette, and you and I just spoke, and I was like, I don't think Marquette's as bad as the score was. Obviously, they're one of the best teams in the country. I think it's a really bad matchup with how Marquette likes to win games and just how suffocating UConn's defense is, right?
And how they
Um,
move the ball too. I mean, Marquette moves the ball, but man, UConn moves the freaking ball.
they're like you watch some of these games and it's like they're in a different league, man. Their physicality, their athleticism. Every time I watch a UConn game, I'm blown away by how athletic and physical they are,
Yeah, but
right?
they've always, but think about that. Coach Calhoun.
Mhm.
I mean, I know Coach Hurley, I don't think ever coached with Coach Calhoun, but
Yeah.
that was their game. I mean, you look at all these guys, like they were fast. They could shoot the ball. They played smart. I mean, you have, Khalid El Hamin. You had Richard Hamilton. You had one of my favorites, Ray Allen. You had, I mean, big
Mhm.
guys. You had, you had just so many just beasts down low. Kemba
Yep.
Walker. I mean, they're just smart. They play smart within a system and they push the ball, which is nice.
Yeah, no, it's a Big East is absolutely legit, but UConn is on top of that mountain for sure.
Yeah. And
They're
and I
they
think and I think the biggest game in the Big East this week is Georgetown playing DePaul.
You think so?
And we picked, I think we both picked Georgetown.
Yeah, I did. I mean, it's kind of DePaul's last chance to win a game in my mind.
I'm
You
gonna
know,
go with DePaul, man.
are you? Yeah,
Yeah, why
good.
not?
Yeah.
Screw it. That's why I've got a shitty record compared to you.
You let emotions take control.
Yeah, well, sometimes you know what? I'm an emotional eater, I'm an emotional picker.
It's all
But
good, man. You're good. You're a great leader. So,
yeah, but you know what team is
um,
kind of just disappointed me a little bit is Xavier.
yeah.
Yeah, they're 13 and 12, they're 7 and 7. They started off pretty good. They beat St. Mary's, who's, really doing really well out there in the Western WCC. They lost to Houston by 6. They beat Cincy. They lost to UConn the first time by 5, and they've lost
Mhm.
their last 2 in a row, Seton Hall and Creighton. So, and then you're hearing rumblings about Coach Miller too, but I mean,
So I was gonna say,
who knows?
I mean, Coach Miller can't go from a Xavier to like a Ohio State. Like,
I mean, that's when they fired Holtman. That's the first person that came up, Sean Miller.
I called you like within the hour, and I was like, oh, I think Sean Miller's like would be a good candidate, and you weren't too big on that. So, but
Yeah, I mean, he
I think
would
you've
be.
kind of warmed up to it
Yeah,
over the last couple days.
yeah, but who knows? But we got actually Xavier's leading score on the podcast. You were busy that day to record, so you let me go by myself, and I can't believe you're dumb enough to trust me. But I did get George Washington head coach, Coach Caputo by myself. Doesn't talk to me anymore, but that's cool. Restraining order. That's cool. We got Quincy Olivari.
Man, Quincy's putting up some numbers, man. It's
Oh my God.
he's got the Big East record this year for points in a game. And guy is just a straight out assassin.
Yeah.
Like can score from anywhere on the court. And yeah, he's a huge bright spot, not just for Xavier, but for the Big East as a whole.
Yeah. And he's leading Xavier 19.1 points game, 1.4 steals per game. But he was a stud at Rice. And you don't really think of Rice.
Mm-mm.
I know it's a good school in where is Rice? Is Rice Houston? Rice is Houston, isn't it?
In Texas, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I know Houston is in Texas, dog. Thank you. But he's working on his master's in sports administration. Dude was finished third in Conference USA last year in scoring with 18.2, second team all
Wow.
conference. So I mean, the kid can play, and it's really curious to see what he kind of why he picked Xavier, how the season's going. Um, like I told you, there's like 3 or 4 parts in a season, right? And we're getting
Mhm.
to another part, the tournament. Now they're playing. They got to get some couple more wins so they get a better seed. But
Yeah.
I think they're talented enough to make a run.
You think so?
Yeah, I really do. I like Coach Miller. I mean, he's won at every. I mean, he was a ball player at Pitt. I remember watching him at Pitt. It's kind of funny how I went to Pitt and he
Yeah.
was there,
So
but
what do you think that they'd have to do to make the tournament?
they got to win the Big East tournament. I mean, they're 13 and 12. You're not going to get an at-large bid at 17 and 12, 18 and 12.
Okay. And you think they can win that tournament?
You know, depends on where they seed, where they fall.
Yeah.
I mean, if they have to play Marquette or UConn the first couple games, then no. But the longer they can not have to play those 2 teams,
Hmm.
I just don't think UConn is beatable.
Yeah.
I mean, UConn is that good. I don't think UConn is beatable at this stage in the game. But then I thought that about Purdue, and they lost to a team that has no coach. They lost to Ohio State recently. Well, I mean, they got Coach Diebler, whose brother was a stud at Ohio State and comes from a coaching tree. His dad's a very well-known high school coach. So,
Hmm.
so let me ask you this. Let's just skip to the Ohio State quickly. So if he, let's say, wins 7 games, 5 games, and loses 2, do you think they'll give him the job?
Say that again.
So if
He,
Coach Diebler, who's the associate head coach, he's the interim head coach,
yeah,
Jake
they just
Diebler,
beat Purdue. Yeah.
just beat Purdue, which was a great game. I actually watched it.
Hmm.
Um, do you think if he has, let's say, I don't know how many games are left, but let's say there's 10 games left, and he goes 7 and 3 or 8 and 2, do you think they give him the head coaching job next year?
No, I think they want to hire a big name.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, if I'm in the AD's position, I'd consider it for 100%, right?
Yeah.
But what they'll be able to offer. Um, I think that it's going to be interesting to see what happens in the NCAA tournament for, a million different reasons. But
Yeah.
like some of these mid-major coaches, like this is going to be like their career defining moment, right?
Yeah.
And if
Bad
they,
Mata.
yeah, I mean, if some of these guys can kind of break through in the tournament, Ohio State's just going to throw something at them that's going to be too hard to refuse. And I think that may be a better fit for Ohio State, but Yeah, I mean, interim head coaches, like, especially, when you only have like 5 to 8 games left, right? Max. Like I think that's just too hard to show, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, let's not talk about Ohio State. Let's jump in with Quincy, and let's go a little bit. Let's go to Southwestern Ohio, and let's
Let's
talk a
do it.
little
Let's get it,
Musketeer
LT.
basketball.
Feel like I'm on a
What?
what's the name show? The show on ESPN with
Oh,
what's his name on ESPN that stands up. He comes on right after first take. Played football, white guy, Pat McAfee. Feel like I'm on the
oh,
Pat
really?
McAfee
I
show.
mean, if you
Yeah.
want me to be, I'm not going to start yelling and swearing, but we can get pretty close. So, all right. So I'll just start. I'll introduce you. We'll have some fun. Okay.
All right, that's cool.
Good. About 20 minutes, 15 or 20 minutes. Okay.
That works. That works.
Well, so we've got a great guest. Sam is not with me because, let's be honest, I pretty much hold the water. I'm a big glass of water. So we have the magician on his Instagram account. He called himself the magician. All right. I've never met anybody that's a magician that actually scores the ball. So we got Quincy Olivari from the Xavier Musketeers. Welcome to the Full Court Press podcast.
I appreciate that. Thank you for the invite.
Yeah. Why are you laughing? You said that you felt like you were ESPN Pat McAfee, man. Come on, you're in sports
Yeah,
administration.
yeah. It was the introduction, Nobody's ever acknowledged that subtle description I've used of myself before.
Well,
Nobody's
we're
ever
hard hitting.
recognized that.
We have, we usually get coaches for like there, a lot of podcasts and places get 15, 20 minutes. We had Coach Will Wade, who's one of the hottest coaches right now at McNeese State. And it was gonna be like 20 minutes. It was like 40 minutes. So I mean, I'm not gonna keep that long, but we have fun. So you're from Atlanta. I think, would you say you're the best player in college basketball that wears number 8 right now?
Oh yeah, for sure.
Do you know
For
anybody
sure.
else that wears number 8?
Off the top of my head, Chris Ledlum from St. John's, where's number 8? And a kid from Washington that we play. I just remember him from the scout.
Okay. Okay. A kid from Washington, so he wasn't very good, unfortunately. Um, so
No,
you're
I didn't say all that.
well, you said you knew who Chris Ledlum is. I mean, they're in conference. So you are first
Yeah,
year.
you feel me?
Yeah, I feel you. I feel you. So you're your first year at Xavier. You came from Rice, where you had an illustrious career. You finished third in Conference USA scoring last year with just under 19, second team All Conference USA. How has that transition been from Conference USA, which is kind of a mid-major ish, to a Power Six conference in Xavier in the Big East?
The transition was a little rocky at first, just in practice, and then the first couple games, just first being in practice and just being used to the different scheme, intensity, just different environment, and then the first couple of games just being in the offense against someone else in a real live setting where we're trying to understand where I'm gonna get my shots and how to trust the offense when the actual defense is guarding you and things like that. And it was definitely a learning period, but once I got the hang of it and understood the offense, where my shots will come, how the offense ends, how it moves, stuff like that, the transition it became pretty easy, and then I got comfortable, and that's when I
Clicked.
took off.
Yeah, and it's funny because once a score, always a score. I've been around basketball my whole life, and if you can ball, it doesn't matter where you're at, you can ball. I think it's funny you're worried about if you're going to get your scoring and you're averaging 19.1 points a game, and you're leading the team. And I mean, in the Big East, which is, I grew up in the Big East watching basketball. I mean, Syracuse is no longer there. Georgetown. I guess what have you noticed with the Big East? I mean, you're from the South, you're from Atlanta. You probably didn't grow up watching Big East basketball to a certain extent. I mean, you're younger because you got ESPN and all that stuff, and they show all the games. It doesn't matter where you are; you can see any game anywhere now. What have you kind of been like surprised about with the Big East? I mean, you've played in some iconic places, iconic teams, iconic coaches, rivalries. Like, what is it kind of like? Man, am I really here? And just like some of the games you've played where you've just made some electric plays and the crowd goes nuts? I mean, a little bit different than Rice, I would say.
Yes, sir. So it's actually ironic because Coach Cohen asked me today. He said, what have like been my impression?" Because I told him today that obviously I grew up SEC and being from Georgia, and then being in Texas at Rice, I watched a lot of Big 12.
Mm-hmm.
So I only thing I knew about the Big East was Kimball Walker and the 6 overtime game against Syracuse and UConn. Those are the only two
Yeah.
things I can tell you about Big East basketball since
Yeah.
I was a kid. And being here, Avi, I'm still waiting for my first game in Madison Square Garden. That is what I know the most about the Big East. And
The
then
Mecca.
just traveling at all these big cities has been amazing playing. Like I told my dad, like it's these big cities that I've never played in, like Chicago and New Jersey and New York and Milwaukee this weekend. You know, I've never been to Rhode Island, but playing Providence and Rhode
Mm-hmm.
Island and going to Nebraska, it's just like these traveling experiences have definitely been different. And it's been definitely something to just soak in and realize that I'm actually here and telling myself that I belong here. The the most interesting part that I honestly still can't believe, when we first walked in Villanova, I didn't think their arena would look like that. Like I
Really?
always thought they played in Wells Fargo, and obviously they play some of their games in Wells Fargo, same way like St. John's plays in Madison Square Garden sometimes. But I was told beforehand, like if we're playing at Carnesecca, like that place is small, like it's
Yeah.
very like tight knit, and it just feels like the fans are
Like
on
right
top of
on
you.
you.
But I
Yep.
had no warning about where Villanova plays outside of Wells Fargo,
Yeah.
so I thought the arena would be much bigger. And when I walked in, I was like, oh, like this was not what I thought it was. You know, it's still very nice. And
Yeah.
the main concourse area was beautiful. And then they have this nice little courtside clear lounge right on the baseline. But I did not think Villanova would look like that.
Yeah. Was it weird to talk a little bit about St. John's? Was it weird to kind of look down there and or look over and see like Rick Pitino? I mean, if you grew up in this SEC, which you obviously did, I mean, everybody knows Rick Pitino from Kentucky. Like everybody, except for you, probably.
Yeah, I know about him from Louisville
Yeah.
for sure. Because I think I was fifth grade when they won the national
Yeah.
championship. I think I was
Okay.
fifth grade.
Okay.
Uh, but he when he walked in, it was just like when he walked in while we were warming up, he was walking like towards Coach Miller. It's it's certain people that I describe, they walk in the room like Darth Vader. Like they just command your attention, but not in like a like
Was the music
their
going in the
smile.
background? Was the
Bro.
music going in the
It,
background?
it it feels like it,
Do
like
do 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 do
yeah,
do
you know,
do.
it's a weird way, but he just definitely, his aura commands your attention. You know,
Mm-hmm.
his presence commands your attention. And it's
Yeah.
not even in a bad way. It's just like you can tell, like he just walks like he's a powerful figure. And it was just like, oh, like this is Rick Pitino. And when we did the handshake line at the end, it was just like, whoa, that was Rick Pitino. You
Yeah,
know?
that's pretty cool. So you guys are 13 and 12 right now. You're kind of having an interesting year, kind of like a roller coaster. You beat St. Mary's, which is one of the hottest mid-major teams. You lost to Houston by 6, and that was a rocking game. I remember watching that. That was at the Cintas Center, and that was like rocking. You beat Cincy, which is playing really good basketball. You lost to UConn by 5, then didn't do so well the next time. You've lost your last 2. I guess what is the message right now from Coach Miller?
We got to keep fighting. Like we still have a chance to do everything we set out for ourselves at the beginning of the season, and giving up isn't an option. Just because we lost our last game doesn't mean that the season's over. We still have an opportunity to put ourselves in a great position to achieve everything we want.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that the big thing is, Sam and I talk to a lot of players, a lot of coaches, and the season is kind of like kind of in compartments, right? So now you guys are you're fighting for a good seeding in the tournament, and then make some noise because I mean you could have a good run in the tournament and next thing you know, you're dancing the NCAA tournament. So I mean, there's still time and what have you. What is kind of the, I guess, what was the kind of recruiting process for you? I mean, the transfer portal is so prevalent, NIL is so prevalent. You know, you graduated with, I believe, your degree in bachelor's in sports administration. You're doing your master's. You're working on your master's right now, correct? Yeah, can you hear me,
So,
Quincy?
so yeah, I'm assuming that you were asking me to describe my transfer process
Yeah, just
or
kind
the
of how'd
portal.
that process go? Like, you know, do you go into the coach's office and say, "Hey, I want to transfer"? I mean, do you have a kind of an idea where you want to how does that work for you? Or how did that work for you?
All right, so a lot of that was definitely the biggest question towards the end of my season last year, being that I had one more year and I was doing fairly well for myself last season.
Fairly well, third in
So
the Conference USA, fairly well. I like your humility, my man.
I did fairly well. I wasn't first team. That haunts me, but we
Right.
could get into that another day. But that was just a talk. So once the season was over and we lost in the CBI, well, I took like a week off. I took like 2, 3 days off, and I was just thinking like, what does this look like for me? And obviously, I was nervous because I was going into the unknown, but I also knew that staying comfortable and someplace where I'm safe might not allow me to achieve the dreams that I want. And so, after like praying and talking with my mom and my dad, I just decided that that was what was best for me. And office, because he told me after a while, he was like, if I do transfer, just give him a heads up ahead of time so he can feel like recruit, because
Mhm.
it would suck if I waited until April to be like, oh yeah, I'm gonna transfer, and it gives him no time to recruit another good player to come in and help fill my void. So our season ended in March, and I took the time to really think about what I wanted to do. And when I did it, I walked in his office and I sat down, took a deep breath, and I just told him I'm going to transfer. And it was very emotional,
Mhm.
but at the end of that, he just kind of let me know that he always has my back. We family forever. He loves me, and if I need any help, uh, just to let him know, like seriously, he's not just saying that because obviously he knows almost every coach in America, so he can give me the real on who they are as a person, if they
That's
fit
awesome.
me, and if I do well there. And I bounced a lot of coaches off of him, whether that was the Texas coach, USC coach, Muscleman, Bruce Pearl, just
Wow.
almost every coach that I would have had any interest in going to play for. And he would tell me, Q, that tough because they're bringing X, Y, and Z in, or they have X, Y, and Z coming back, or they're going here. I don't know how you fit. And after a while, after all these coaches, I told him that Coach Miller reached out, and you could tell that was a different, like,
Really?
almost like he felt like off rip that would be perfect. Like he knew that
Really?
I needed Coach Miller in my life. Yeah. And I told him about
Does
our
he
phone
know
call.
Coach Miller from the past? Like from
Very,
just
very well.
practice? Yeah, good.
Very, very well. They're good friends. And so you could tell that although at the time I was talking to Auburn and Miami, Texas, Ole Miss, LSU, like kind of narrowing my list down to like I think like 10 schools.
Wow.
Him and my mom were kind of they were nudging Xavier very hard, and Texas was in the mix right there, and it was kind of came down to Texas and Xavier, and you could kind of tell that they knew that Xavier was the right decision or the decision I should make. And it was a lot of phone calls, that whole portal process. I mean, just for it was over 40 schools that I
Wow.
talked to, and eventually it got to a point where I had to tell like my mom to leave me alone because she was just in my ear telling me about what I should do, and I just didn't need that. And so I told Coach Miller the same day Davion committed. I was supposed to go on an official visit to Auburn the following week. I think I don't remember the exact dates, but I was supposed to go to Auburn. I was gonna come back to Houston for like a day, pack again, and go to Xavier right after.
Wow.
Auburn ended up getting Denver Jones. And I told them I don't think that would be best for me because I believe me and Denver would be the same position.
Yeah.
And I just didn't know how that dynamic would work with Aiden Holloway, Denver Jones, Katie Johnson, and me. I just didn't know how that would work. I wasn't very confident in my role being in that situation. So I respectfully told Bruce Pearl and coach, I forgot which coach it was, but I just respectfully told him like, hey, I appreciate the opportunity. Uh, I see you all just got Denver Jones. I don't think I would like to go to Auburn anymore. And they respected it. I remember the coach said, I thought we could make it work, but once we got Denver, it made me think that maybe you wouldn't want to come, but we appreciate your respect and thank you for communicating. So that dropped Auburn, that dropped that visit. But on the public, to the public, nobody knew I dropped it. So I still technically had that Auburn visit lined up to the public, still had the Xavier visit right after. And so it kind of narrowed it down to Miami, Texas, Xavier. Texas or Miami had just lost in the Final Four. But I had spoke to Larinaga and I had spoke to the assistant coach, and they told me up front, like, hey, we're still in the tournament, but once we lose, we're getting to recruit you more serious.
Once we lose, what they were hoping to lose?
No, I'm just saying, like, so a lot of
I know.
teams
I'm
told me
messing with
that
you. I'm messing with you.
they're in, you know what I'm
Yeah.
saying?
Yeah. Yeah. No, I'm saying.
So they wanted they wanted to make sure they focused on what they were doing. And
Mm-hmm.
so then once that happened, it was okay, Isaiah Wong has one more year. We're trying to decide if he's gonna come back or not. If he comes back, it might be tough, but if he doesn't, we had a spot for you. And that gave me already another ounce of respect for Miami and their staff because they were upfront. They told me what it was, they gave me the situation, and it was like, okay, we're gonna see what Isaiah Wong does. But if he comes back, we're gonna be honest with you. It might be tough for you to be here, but you'll still have the opportunity to play here. If he leaves, the spot is all yours. And that's why they were in my top four because I once they told me Isaiah Wong left, it that's a good spot. They were just in the Final Four, and then Texas was in the mix, like I said, and Xavier obviously, and so. I was telling Texas like, "Hey, I'm going to Xavier next week. I would like to make my decision soon. I I would like to come for a visit," and I was never able to get a visit scheduled, and so that kind of rubbed me the wrong way.
Yeah.
Miami, they were still waiting on Isaiah Wong, so
And,
I
and,
just remember
and
that Monday at Davion.
but isn't it crazy though? Because it really is a business. Okay. You know, you hear
Yeah,
the young cats a couple years ago. It's a business. It's a business decision. You know, you're like, this kid's wet behind the ears. He doesn't know what he's talking about. But it's good that these coaches are being upfront with you, because really what we've learned from this podcast, if anything, it's all about roster management. You know,
yeah,
with all the different rules and the transfer portal and NIL and COVID and we've had kids on kids. I mean, they're kids compared to me on the podcast that have played at 4 schools in 6 years. I mean, that never happened, before COVID. So, it's good that they're keeping it open and honest. Now, let me ask you something. Was your mom happy that you picked Xavier? Was that her like what was your family's first choice?
oh yeah. My mom's first choice was Xavier. Once they got in the mix, my dad he thought I was probably going to Texas.
Yeah.
Uh, but like I said, I was in Houston for 4 years. I watched a lot of Big 12 basketball. Like I
Yeah.
was around that. But when I told him, I was on the phone with I had I did a conference call with them. I was in Coach Parrish' office, and I called Coach Miller on Coach Parrish' phone, and I surprised Coach Miller, telling him that I was going to commit a week before I came on my visit, and I committed. It
See,
was the
wait, well,
it,
time out. So you committed from another school?
yeah. So
Well, what? Come
I
on,
wanted the
man.
people to be very.
How many
No, I was.
how many girlfriends you got?
I got zero. I told this is exactly what happened, right? All right, I'm gonna break it down for you because you know what I'm saying. So Coach P was very instrumental in that process. My mom and dad were not able to be like my dad was in. They aren't together, but my dad was in LA, I believe. My mom was at work, and I just after praying that it was like a Monday afternoon, like 2 o'clock. And I just went upstairs to Coach Perry's office. We talked for a little bit. And I said, I think I want to do it. I just told him like the difference between Texas and Xavier, why I'm confident that Xavier's the place to be. And so I said, I think I'm gonna do it. And you could tell he started smiling. So I said, give me a second. I called my mom. I called my dad. I said, hold on. Then I called my mom. Said, hold on. I pressed them in together. And so now I was like, can y'all hear me? They said, yeah. Put that down. I said, Coach P, I can't add a third person on the phone. Can I use yours? He said, yeah, for sure. So he sat down and I was on the long couch. He sat down on the couch chair, called Coach Miller, and Coach Miller was like, hey, Scott. And I was like, what's up, Coach? What up, Coach Miller? It's Quincy. And he was like, oh, hey, Quincy, mind you, like I said, Davion just committed that day, but I was supposed to go on a visit this following week. So I was like, yeah, what's up, Coach Miller? Just sitting here with Coach P, just talking. I saw Davion committed, just wanted to let you know I'm committing too. He was like, what? Like, because obviously nobody suspected this. I was like, yeah, I'm committed. He said, are you playing a joke on me? I was like, nah, I'm for real. And that was like the first time in a while. Obviously, I've been with him, but like, that's one of the very few times in my hands that Coach Miller has shown like some crazy, unexpected energy. Like,
Yeah.
obviously, if we have a game and it's intense, you know what I'm saying? But like
Yeah.
in a normal setting, it's like pretty chill. But he was like real excited. And he was like, wow, this is like the best day of my life. I really did not suspect this. And everybody, my
That's
mom was crying. My
that's
dad was
awesome.
happy.
That's awesome. And
Yeah.
you know what's funny? Does Coach Miller ever bring out the VHS tapes or talk about his play days? Because I don't know if you know much about him. I used to watch him when he was at Pitt, and he was a
No,
stone
he
cold
doesn't.
killer.
He doesn't.
He was a stone cold killer on the basketball court. He was a ball player. You know, do you ever see like any? Does he
I
ever do
actually
anything in practice or
I don't have
anything
my
like
wallet
shoot?
right now, but I got a trading card of Coach Miller in my wallet when he was at Pitt.
You should get him to sign it.
Oh, I don't know if he know. I don't know if he know I got it. I
Well,
don't
he's
want him
gonna
to
know
think
now.
I don't want to feel embarrassed.
Yeah, that's awesome though. How's it been playing for him? Because he's very well known. His brother's very well known. Your coach was a great basketball player. How's the transition been? I mean, was there big differences between your Rice head coach and Coach Miller?
I mean, the transition. I mean, it was change. You know, I didn't really know what to expect coming here. I just knew that I just had to come in with the right mentality, right mindset, and right attitude, and everything else will take care of itself. You know, Coach Miller's big on process and being eh, very particular with like your process and work and just making sure you're staying on your ones and twos. And as long as I've been here, as long as you're on that and you're responsible, he he doesn't have much to say. He just wants people to treat the game with respect,
Yeah.
basically.
Yeah.
And
Awesome.
I feel like I do a pretty good job of doing that. So he doesn't really have to do much like yelling or like uh coaching me up in that sense
Hmm.
because he understands how much I care, how bad I want it, and he sees that in my process every day of how I approach practice, how I approach workouts, how I approach lifting, you know, things like that.
Yeah.
So he of like how to be a better basketball player through X's and O's on the court, you know, like what he's supposed to do. But when it comes to like what I thought he might do, like yelling at me or if I was messing up, like he knows when I mess up, like he might get on me. But it's like he also knows that I'm not doing that on purpose, that he knows it was
Right.
with the right frame of mind, things like that.
Right. Right. So we do a little thing at the end of the interview. It's kind of called the shot clock, but it's never the shot clock. It's just quick answers. So I'm going to ask you maybe like 9 or 10 questions, and they're just going to be quick. Just come to your mind, whatever comes to your mind, and kind of answer it. Okay. So the first question is
All
favorite
right.
college player and or team growing up.
Favorite college player growing up and or team. So team growing up, it was either Duke or USC. Favorite player growing up in college was Austin Rivers.
Okay, timeout. You said you grew up watching SEC basketball.
But I love the ACC. ACC was always the goal growing up. Everybody wanted to go to Duke.
Okay. Okay. Okay.
You know what I mean?
Favorite arena you've played in?
Moody Center. Moody Center.
Okay.
At like wait, correct. Like I'm assuming
Yeah.
away because
Yeah. Yeah.
obviously
Yeah.
the
Wait.
other
Yeah. Yeah.
place,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
yeah.
Oh wait, Moody Center.
Cintas takes it for sure, but definitely the Moody Center, Austin, Texas.
Yeah, we're gonna try to come down to Cincinnati area next year, and I'd love to see a game at Xavier because I mean I watched you guys play, watched a couple games. It's just electric. All right, favorite
Yeah.
snack or candy?
I'm a huge candy guy. I love Starburst or the all pink pack Starburst or the cluster gummies.
Oh, okay. I don't like the cluster gummies. You get stuck in my teeth. What were your 5 visits coming out of high school? What 5 schools did you visit?
Cornell and Rice. That's it.
Just
I only
two?
had 2 offers. Yeah,
Really?
Cornell wasn't full ride because it's Ivy League. Yeah.
Wow,
So I had one full ride scholarship. That's it to Rice University.
that's crazy. That that's crazy. All right, biggest or one word to describe the difference between Conference USA and the Big East. One word.
Crowd.
Okay. One word to describe the transfer portal.
It is the one word I would use to describe. It's it's a whirlpool.
Yeah. It's a whirlpool. That's 3 words, but that's okay. It's
No,
a
no. I'm saying like the one word I would use to
yeah,
describe is
yeah, yeah, yeah.
world.
Yeah. So that's the transfer portal, correct?
Yeah, the transfer portal I would use to describe whirlpool.
Okay. What about NIL? Money.
Life, life dash changing, life changing.
Okay. Wow. Life changing. Okay. Biggest difference between Rice and Xavier, other than the weather. You're wearing a cap right now.
Crowd.
Okay. Okay. Biggest difference between food between Cincinnati, Ohio, and Texas.
Drastic.
Drastic. Which is better?
Houston.
Yeah, Texas got some food, man. Texas got some food. All right. One word to describe Coach Miller.
Intense.
Okay. Funniest teammate. Who's the funniest teammate?
Me.
Okay. Who's the best dresser on the team?
Me.
Okay. Which teammate has the worst rhythm? Don't say me.
Oh,
Who's
no,
like
not at
who
all.
who do you go out with and you see him dancing? They're like, man, you need to stop dancing.
Maybe
Everybody has a
Giannis, but it's
who?
not fair because he's an international.
Yeah, because
It's one of
he's
our
Eastern.
internationals.
Yeah, but come on, man. The Eastern Europeans do not know how to dance in a club.
It depends on the music, but I'm gonna say Giannis.
Okay, Gitas. Who is the next president of the United States as a teammate? Who do you think of your teammates could be the president of the United States?
Me.
Okay. So 3 out of the 4 questions is you. Okay. Obviously, a lot about you here. Uh, last song or last question. The song that best describes you. What is your anthem?
Off the wall, Michael Jackson.
You are the first person to say Michael Jackson. That's awesome. And then lastly, because we like to ask this because we had Shadia Wells, who's you actually might know he was at you're TCU, you were at Houston, he was in Dallas, but he's at McNeese State. What is the one song that best describes Coach Miller?
Heart like a truck.
Heart like a truck. Oh my God. Does he like that song?
He loves that song.
Who sings Heart Like a Truck?
I don't know, but if he really needs some practice at practice, oh yeah, he hard like a truck. You already know a song to
So
play.
what I got to do, and I don't know if they have it on Instagram or Twitter. I got to pull it off of like a 10 or 15-second reel of Coach Miller. And what I do is I pair that song. So like I've got Coach Will Wade from McNeese. Shadia said Gangster Paradise by Coolio. And I'm gonna pull that. So when he's coaching, we had Donnie Jones, who was a legendary assistant at Florida. He's at Stetson now. We used, you know what song he said about himself was "Smooth Operator" by Sade. So,
Yeah,
hopefully we'll get Coach Miller on this podcast and we'll ask him that question, because the coaches always get stumped. But so we always like to let the player, the coach, finish off. What let me put you on your kind of pedestal. What do you got to say about to the the Xavier faithful and the fans and even some of your teammates or just anybody?
I just want to tell the Xavier fans, thank you so much for all of the support. I know you all wish I had one more year. And like Coach Miller said at DePaul, there's no such thing as a hard no.
Ooh, I like that. So, so Quincy, thanks so much. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. Sam will be back hopefully next week if I allow him. He's in jail right now for some inappropriate stuff. He's not, but I'll be with him this weekend in Colorado doing some podcasting. Don't forget to subscribe, rate, and review. And thanks for listening, watching the Full Court Press podcast, a college basketball experience. Quincy.